In this episode of Kids Podcast, I am honored to share wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Dealing with kids is hard work, and I'm praying that we add some tools to your tool belt today. So let's dive into today's topic. Should my kids get baptized? Welcome to Kids Podcast. And today is special because I have my very first co-host, Mr. Daniel. Everybody say hi, Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Great. So today we're talking about baptism for kids, as in getting water baptized, one of the ordinances of the church. And Mr. Daniel helps a lot when we do these. And he helps teach the kids and helps dunk the kids, and we have fun with the kids. Isn't that right, Mr. Daniel?
Yeah, that's right. And thank you, Pastor Ron, for having me on here. I'm really excited to be part of this and talk with you and all of our listeners about baptism.
Great. Before we go too far, I would love to do some viewer questions or listener questions, but we don't have any of those because we're too noob. But I have a backup plan. I use these cards called talking points. You've seen them before, usually on one of our social media feeds. Pick a color: yellow, green, blue, or red.
Red.
All right. So talking points is a little card thing, and it's basically for teachers, leaders, and parents. And they come in these stacks of 100 or 300 cards, beats me. And it has a simple question on there. Okay. And usually we ask them the kids, but I want to ask one to Mr. Daniel. Question is, would you rather be a pilot, a horse trainer, farmer, or a teacher?
These are all actually pretty funny.
Because you've been all of them.
Yeah. In my 5th grade yearbook, my parents don't let me down. I wrote my occupation. I wanted to be a farmer. In 5th grade. So that's funny. I don't want to do that anymore. I do not like horses. Horses freak me out.
You love flying. I know that.
Love flying. Yeah, that's a good one.
Terrified of planes, guys.
Yeah. So, I guess a teacher would be pretty cool to be. Get summers off, paid holiday.
But you're already a teacher.
Yeah, I guess I am. That's pretty cool. That was not a loaded question, guys. That was a random one. So I would pick to be a teacher if I had to pick. So
be a teacher.
Yeah,
so Mr. Daniel and I went to Alaska once, and the whole time he was all sweating and scared, and I was like, what are you afraid about? And your answer was
the unknown and flying. Yeah,
we were sitting next to each other, and he grabbed my hands and interlocked, and it was very awkward the whole trip.
It was great. Yeah.
All right, I pick yellow.
Okay. All right, Pastor Ron. All right, yellow. Here we go. Pastor Ron, does your life feel too busy or not busy enough? Why?
Bro, it's way too busy. You know the last time I fished? if I can't fish because of my schedule, one, I'm too busy. But secondly, it's usually because of the weather. Like right now, the weather's jamming me up. So,
yeah. We wanted rain, and now we got too much rain.
Literally, it's been like no rain since the hurricanes down south.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we had nothing but rain and hard ice, and now it's all melting because of more rain.
Yep. And
the water is just blown out to where I want to go fishing. So I don't know where to go fish. I don't think I'm too busy. I'm busy enough. I like to keep myself busy because I don't like to do nothing. I still have time for my recreation and my family, and sometimes just staring at the walls, looking at my nothing box, right?
Yeah.
But then there are times where I'm like, I don't really have time to go on a fishing trip today, because I don't like them 1 hour fishing trips anymore.
Like
I need a 1-dayer.
Yeah. And you're just finishing up soccer season, so
yep,
that's going to change schedules a little bit.
Yeah, so fall is my busiest season because I am nonstop soccer, and my wife loves it. But no, she's a champion. She supports me and it really encourages me, and so I'm lucky to have her. So yeah, good question. But yeah, all right, let's dig in. We're talking about water baptism, one of the ordinances of the church, or a rite, and how we can help our kids do that. And you might be asking, can my kid get or be baptized? Are they old enough for it? And how do I go about it? Or even how should I know that they are ready for baptism? What would you say is the most common scenario from a parent or a kid when we bring up this topic with them?
Yeah. I've had a couple parents approach me, and they want to know, like, does my kid even know what they want to be doing right now? Do they know how serious this is? And that's kind of the two parents that have approached me recently about that is, do they really know what they're asking me to do?
Mm.
And we talk about that in church. Sometimes we just bring up the idea, and then we have conversations with kids more one-on-one, like, what does this actually really mean on a deeper level?
Yeah, that's so true. And what I like about that is, who else does that? Big people, right?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes big people don't know if they want to be baptized, or if they want to have a new job, or if they want to marry that person, or if they want to make that big decision. And so, one of the philosophies I've kind of adhered to while starting this podcast has always been, these are just small people that are growing to one day become a big person. Mm-hmm. And they're just trying to figure out questions all the time. And I think when we get new jobs, or we're at a job and we get a new employee, there's elements of that where the worker is like, what do I do? What's going on? How do I do it?
Yeah.
And we have to help them think through it before they can master it, or take it on for themselves. So
on the other end of that, we asked the kids recently, like, who wants to be baptized? Everybody's hand went up. They saw their friends' hands going up. Well, come talk to Pastor Ron or Mr. Dan after service. Oh, my friend Jimmy's going. I want to go too.
Right.
So that's where it comes into the deeper discussions with the kids and with their families.
Yeah. And so here at Calvary, we actually do the same steps with the adults. We make it available, and then we kind of vet, like, hey, why do you really want to do this? And did I tell you what happened on Sunday when we asked the kids?
Mm-mm.
There were two of them. This is really funny. Little, we'll call her Morgan, because that's my daughter's name. That's not who was really there, but Morgan came up, and she was like, I was like, wait a minute, didn't you already get baptized? She was like, yeah, I just want to do it again.
Yeah.
Which was cute, but at the same time, it's like, okay, that defeats the purpose of why you're doing it.
Yeah.
You've already declared it. Once you start doing it to do it, you're not doing it for him anymore, are you? You're doing it more for you to feel good about whatever it is. That's just kind of how I interpreted it.
Yeah, well, Mr. Dan might have made a mistake, and we can cover that later in the podcast. But I mentioned something on stage about Mr. Dan getting baptized twice, but we can talk about that later in the segment.
Well, so that happened. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, because I remember the first time I got baptized. I was in 9th, 10th grade. I got on the big stage with my dad, who was the she was my uncle, but long story, with the pastor, and I got baptized. And years and years later, I think even then I knew kind of what was going on, that I was declaring my faith and wanted everyone to know that I love Jesus. But then I became an actual pastor, licensed and educated, and then I was like, oh wait, out with the old, in with the new. Oh wait, the old is gone, the new is in. Oh wait, buried and alive. This means something more to me now. And so I even question, like, should I do it again? And so
that's very similar to my experience. I grew up in the church, so I was born and went through all the steps my whole life. And looking back on it now, and a reason why I got baptized again, it just felt like another step in the process of doing what I'm supposed to do as someone growing up in the church. So I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I got baptized. And my wife and I talked about this after we talked to the kids about it. I lived a long life from 12, 13 to where I'm at now at 31, and I just felt called to get rebaptized. Pastor Nick was giving the sermon one time, and after the sermon, we did water baptisms, and he made a comment. Anybody that, even if he didn't sign up to get baptized today, and I was pacing back and forth in the back. I was going to go up, and Pastor Nick's dad, pulled me aside and said, "Hey," I didn't really know him at the time. So it seems like you're really thinking about this again. And him and I had this conversation, and we agreed that, you know what, let's go and do this again. I was married. I started my life, as a husband, and it just felt like a lot more, out with the old, in with the new. And it did have a lot more meaning as an adult than it did when I was just following the steps.
Right.
Nobody talked to me really as a kid about why I'm doing this. Just, you should do it.
I like it. Yes. That is so good. Yeah. And by no means do I think it's wrong or unbiblical to do it again. Especially if you're going through that process where, like, my faith was different versus what it is now. I mean, at the end of the day, what you want baptism to be about is me pointing to him, not me pointing at, look at me, I'm getting baptized again. Because then that is not what baptism is about. So
yeah.
So if a kid were to come up to you and say, what is baptism? What is that about? What would you tell this little one? Like, how would you say it to a child?
I would use that term that you and I both just used, out with the old, in with the new. Here at Calvary, we have those shirts that say, I am made new through Christ. So you're giving up that old life. You're leaving your old life behind. And I think kids would understand that. And we talked with the kids about what being fully immersed in that water represented. That was a big word that we talked about with kindergarten through third grade. Immersion. What does that mean? You're fully going into the water and you're coming out. You're leaving behind, the dirty part of yourself. So keeping it simpler with kids at first, let them ask more questions.
I love this teacher talk. Simpler. Is it more simple or simpler?
More simple.
That is very good. All right. So if you had what is your favorite illustration of immersion or immersion?
Immersion. To be honest, I never thought about being fully immersed, and how I explained it to the kids. I'm trying to think now. I think there's this guy that came up on stage. His name was Eagle Beard or something. And his idea of immersion, I think, was when Jesus died and he was fully in that tomb, 100% into something. And when he came out,
so Eagle Beard is a character. You can find him on MonGoMeasures.com.
Yes. Yep.
He's one of so I enjoy characters, and I enjoy using characters as illustrations. And Eagle Beard is like our version of Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls.
Yep. And
Eagle Beard came and gave his connection. That's one of the kind of serious time at Calvary Kids is our connections to the message, and we happen to have character helping out this series. He's kind of coming back and giving his personal connection to the topic. So
I think in the past, there was one we did I thought was hilarious. I was trying not to laugh while doing it. Is we had Woody, like the little stuffed animal, on stage with a bowl.
Yeah.
And we baptized Woody.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this series. I was rummaging through our stuff, like, I don't really want to get anybody wet though. But being fully immersed. And what's funny, the kids got that. Someone said, well, I was a baby and someone dumped a cup on my head. And we talked about that. And
so would that be immersion?
That would not be. No, that's just a sprinkle of water. And the kids understood. They told me, like, I was trying to get to this point, like, as a baby, did you make that choice yourself or did somebody else do that for you?
Right.
And they got it right away. They said, oh, I was just a baby. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And that's really cool that the kids are able to understand that they didn't make that decision themselves. Someone else did that for them to get that. And
so good.
And it wasn't immersion. It wasn't a choice on your own that you decided on.
Yeah. And so in our church or our kids ministry, we don't play games with kids. We don't water things down. As I said in the past, we digest things down, but we give them real decisions. And so in Calvary Kids, our kids know what salvation is. They should be able to recall that. The good news is that Jesus lived, Jesus died, and Jesus
lives again.
They'll repeat it just like Mr. Daniel did. And so we talk about baptism. We talk about being called in the ministry. And next week we're talking about the ordinance of the offering, or not the offering, the partaking of bread. That one. Mm-hmm. Holy Communion. And yeah, so we love it when they can recall and tell us things that are factual and sound, and yeah, there.
Yeah, because our series that we brought baptism in this month is our journey series.
Yeah.
And the journey of following Christ so we can live like Christ. Mm-hmm. And that was important to teach the kids that Jesus was baptized. Mm-hmm. You know, even Jesus went through this, and if that's something Jesus did, that's something we should do too. And if we're on this journey to be like Christ, we have to do things like he did.
Yeah, and so when he turns water into wine, I gotta turn water into wine, right?
Definitely. Yeah, you should be walking to your favorite fishing spot on Lake Erie.
That's right.
being just like Christ,
just like Jesus. Become fishers of man today. All right, so here's what the Bible has to say, and here's what we believe when it comes to the actual theology of water baptism. Your kids may not be able to digest this fully, but mom and dad and teachers, these are pretty important for you to digest, so that when you're looking for a kid's response and helping them take this step in their faith, we're on the right path. So we believe that the ordinance of the church, baptism by water, is by immersion, is a commandment according to scriptures, that all who repent and believe on Christ as Savior and Lord are to be baptized. Thus, they declare to the world that they have died with Christ, and that they also have been raised with him to walk in a newness of life. In other words, out with the old, in with the new.
Did you write that yourself?
No, I did not.
Okay. I could tell.
Our denomination is the Assemblies of God, and when we take on our license, which I hope Mr. Daniel does, wink, wink, we have to sign something called a voluntary agreement. That means even if I don't fully understand or even fully believe, that I'm not going to purposely teach against it. Fortunately, I believe in water baptism, and I believe in teaching people why they believe and what they believe. So in our fundamental truths, that's number 6, the ordinances of the church, and they give us 4 biblical citations. Matthew 28:19 is the big one that everyone knows, is that go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I won't read the other ones because today's mission is not the theology, but I'll give you the citations. Mark 16:16, Acts 10:47 through 48, and Romans 6:4. You can find that under the Assemblies of God belief page, or fundamental truths. What I think is important when it comes to this, especially with kids, is looking for two very important words. Is one, immersion, spelled with the I-M-M-E-R-S-I-O-N, and secondly, declaration, that we believe in baptism by immersion, and the purpose of it is to declare your faith. So that's where we're at. So when I'm talking to a child or a parent, which I've gotten some emails with parents like, hey, how do I know if I'm ready? How do I know if my kid's ready? My kid brought this up. Are they ready? And things like that, right? Mm-hmm. What would you say is the number one thing that those parents should be looking for as a telltale that their kid is ready for water baptism?
I think asking deeper questions, rather than just surface level questions, like um, wanting to know the why and the reasoning. Well, why do I need to be baptized? Well, I mean, we just read it in the Bible that the Bible declares us this is what we should be doing, and I think there's almost like a step to the process. In our journey series, the first thing that we talked about was salvation, which means to be saved. And has that parent talked with their kids about being saved first off, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should definitely be saved and declare Jesus as our Savior before we get to this. So I think that's a very obvious tale right there, is have we completed that first step yet? Have you declared Jesus as your salvation? So I think that's an easy one right there to tell. Have we done that first big basic step yet?
Yeah. So teachers and parents, I know we're using some like Christian words like saved, and we trust that you guys know what that means. We don't really talk that way to kids. We kind of just look for the obvious facts, like, hey, this kid understands what salvation is, that Jesus lived, Jesus died, Jesus lived again, that I believe in the relationship, not the religion, and yada, yada. And they're pretty confident in what they're walking through. All right. So I didn't tell you this, but I just now thought of it. You are mom, or you can be dad. You want to be a dad instead?
Yeah, let's be dad.
You be a dad.
Let's be dad.
And I'll be a strange kid. And you just got an email from Pastor Ron, because that's how we're gonna do it. Is we got a list of kids who are like, I'm interested in this.
Are you my strange kid?
Yes, I'll be the strange kid. And,
my strange kid.
I will send like Pastor Ron sends parents like, hey, your kid raised their hand. Here's how to sign up, so they can go through the training and the prompting and be on schedule. And then you're like, oh no, okay, let me go vet my kid. All right, so I'm little Joey and your dad.
Yeah.
And action.
Joe, what are you raising your hand for?
Daddy, I love Jesus.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's
actually wait. I guess I would say, what do you mean raise a hand? I'm playing video games.
Jimmy, Johnny,
Joey,
Joe, put the video game down, dude. We're trying to have a talk.
I'm in the middle of a game right now, Dad.
Can't you just pause it?
You can't pause in today's games.
I pay the internet around here. But yeah, so
okay, my game's done, Dad. How can I help you?
Hey Joe, I got this email from Pastor Ron. He says you're interested in being baptized. Can you tell me what you think that means? Well, what does being baptized mean, Johnny? Joe?
Pastor Juan talked about old and new.
Old and new.
Pastor Juan talked about alligators under the water.
What?
Mr. Eaglebeard.
Eaglebeard? Yeah. What are you talking about? What am I paying to send you here for? No. So baptism, Joey, that's a really serious thing. You are telling everyone that you are ready to take that next step with Jesus. Is that something that you're ready to do? Yeah. Can you tell me more about what that means to you? Hey, put your phone down over here, buddy. How old did you turn again? How old are you?
I'm 11.
11, okay, yeah.
Did you know my birthday, Dad?
Nah, I forget. Jimmy's birthday is close. Well, Beard and Tan Man.
So yeah, let's go back to regular Mr. Daniel and Pastor Ryan. So there's this reality that we're talking to kids, and you're trying to have a deep conversation with them, and they're answering questions. So remember, these are just young humans that one day want to become big humans. Their brains are not fully developed, so they think they're answering your questions right. So when we go through this process of saying, hey, do you really know what you're doing? There's a little bit of this vetting as a leader or as a parent that we have to do, where we have to read between the lines and and really identify, do they really know? And at any point you think like, man, they might not be ready. They're probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're on this fence where like, I think they got it, they probably do.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not a one-shot thing, and you once you miss your chance, you can't do it again. Like,
right. Next year, probably have it more. Maybe in the spring when they offer it, again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless, you as the leader and as the parent, you're the ultimate authority and influence in your home or with your group, and you have the full empowerment to approach the child and be like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you know why you're doing it?
Yeah. What does it mean to you as a kid? There's a lot of different levels of faith that we see in our Calvary kids. If it's new faith, if it's old faith, if it's deep, if it's shallow,
if it's pastor's kid faith.
Pastor kid
faith. We have
faith,
quite a few pastor's kids in our program. Yeah, very true.
Is this your first time at church ever, and you're raising your hand and want to get baptized? That's awesome that you want to do that. But are we ready? Are we ready for that? And speaking about kids, there's funny kids questions that we get. And I mentioned that we do baptisms at Twin Lakes sometimes as a church. And that brought up kids asking questions. Well, wait a minute, that's not church water.
It's not holy water. I remember that question.
And someone else, and then said, oh yeah, holy water. Yeah. And that's whenever I ask a question, does it matter what water we get immersed in? And some kids said, yes, it needs to be holy church water. Is that the case?
Well, where is that in the Bible?
Is that in the Bible?
Yeah, because in our denomination, we believe in the full gospel truth, as in it has to be written in the Bible or have some sort of cultural normacy that has citated itself in some way, right? So there's no real evidence in scriptures that says that the water needs to be any kind of water. It just encourages us to be baptized. And then when Jesus went and did it, they went to a river, right? And it wasn't just get splashed around. They dipped in.
In the name of.
Right. Yes, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the illustrations that they often refer to in the scriptures is that you were buried the old, but rise up out as the new. And the symbolism there that's super theological is that his body was quote unquote buried, and then he raised out as a new body. And the same idea happens with our spirit. So lots of theology there.
I want to challenge Pastor Ron. Do you need to be baptized to get to heaven?
I do not think you need to be baptized. However, I do think there is a commandment to seek that if you believe. And I believe in this because of what happened on the cross. The one was dissing on Jesus, right? And the other was like, hey, and he became a believer. And whatever happened between the two on the cross, Jesus was like, hey, when this is over and done, you're going to be with me. There was no time for them to get off. Oh, hold on, let's pause this, guys. We're going to get off the cross. We're going to get baptized first, and then we can finish wrapping this up.
Yeah.
That never happened. And I don't believe that Jesus would make a statement like that and be like, spirit of the law, letter of the law. Sorry, buddy, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because one of the basic things that we teach the kids here at Calvary Kids is that there's only one way to heaven, and that's through Jesus.
Specifically through a relationship.
Yeah. And, as long as that's what I believe. As long as we have that one basic truth, that through Jesus is how we get to heaven. That's what I really want the kids to know. And, being baptized in the Spirit and by water, that's very, very important as well. But if the kids can get that relationship through Jesus is how we get to heaven. we are very honest with the kids, as you mentioned earlier on in this podcast. And last week I sat down with the kids at their levels and I said, hey guys, now we're here for you because one day you are going to die. And you need to be real with kids. Like we've said, like they're tiny humans. Let's be honest with them. Someday they're going to die. Mm-hmm. And there is a war for their soul. Are they going to go to heaven or hell? So it's okay to be open and upfront with your kids about that because it's no secret. We're all going to die someday.
Yeah. And you might be listening and like, whoa, you say the word die in kids' church. Yeah. But I do remind you that any child we think is not prepared for that is probably not in the room. They're probably in the toddler class. This particular class is elementary, beginning with those that would actually be in kindergarten. And we do hold back kindergartners that might have some sort of stimuli to or sensitivity to certain words or certain levels of volume and things like that. Usually our audience, we're pretty familiar with what's going on and if they can handle it. Because we talk about Jesus on the cross, Jesus dying. And
Bible is rated R.
It is rated R. So is the movie Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Chosen was rated pretty good, right?
Yeah. I think there's an announcement coming out tonight. Dallas keeps emailing me about it, and season 5 coming out soon.
All right. Let's push on here. Here's some pointers I give to, say, moms, dads, and listeners. When they're vetting their child, here's what I would say. 1, remember that small people can do anything a big person can do. So don't let that hold you back. With the obvious exception of this word called proportion. Like a 100-pound kid is not going to pick up a 500-pound dumbbell, right? When he gets old enough and his body grows into it, yes, that might happen. Maybe 500 is a lot, but you get the point.
Yeah.
But when it comes to decisions about life, your spiritual life, they have the ability to choose to follow Jesus. And more often, from what I've seen in my ministry, is that kids are more willing to choose Jesus than an adult will. There's something about that childlike faith, that innocent faith, and that I am unashamed of the gospel faith. That kids are like, yep, I want whatever that is, and they'll do it.
Yeah, that's big, being unashamed. Mm-hmm. You know, anybody can raise their hand in a room at church, but what if you would ask that at school or somewhere else?
Yep. The second thing that I would say is ask the question. You need to ascertain through your vetting, can my kid hold their breath? It's a very real question. Because baptism is by immersion for the purpose of declaring your faith. So when we dip them under the water, do you think your kid can hold their breath? And there's a very, very simple test to do this. 1, you go in the bathroom. 2, just go to a swimming pool party and just throw them in the water.
There you go.
So most of the time I'm not worried about this, especially if they're in kindergarten, because most kindergartners have been to a pool party and have held their breath for a hot second. And the third thing I would say is can they answer, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? Mm-hmm. And you might have to, yes, pry and tweak and make sure that you understand as well as they understand the answer to the question, that I believe in Jesus and I'm not ashamed. I'm following Jesus and I want others to know. The whole point of baptism by water is a declaration, a celebration of I have chosen to follow Jesus. I'm not ashamed.
Yeah.
So those 3 things. 1, small people can do big things. 2, can they hold their breath underwater? And 3, can they answer the question, why do I want to do this? So big deals. Big deals. All right, so let's walk through some steps on how to, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? So we've already asked the questions of vetted, and we've already discerned their responses. Now what? I would say the next step is to go talk to your actual pastor. whether it's our pastor or your own pastor or a pastor somewhere. If your kid wants to be baptized, that's where you would start. Sure, some churches will be like, well, we don't do it that way because we don't have a cool kids pastor that taught us that kids can do this too. Or they might be that kind of church that's like, no, we only believe in sprinkling, but not the immersion. I get it. That happens. Regardless, if you want to get this rolling, find a pastor and they will set up the pipeline to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so at our church, it's pretty easy. We plug them into our planning center database. There's a queue that says, hey, connect, get them the resource. We do a big meeting. We triple check the I's and the T's. Like, hey, do you understand this is about Jesus and not about you? And there's a different pastor that works with all that. And then on the day of baptism, I think you've done it before, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes someone does it, sometimes a different pastor does it. But there was a time where we had several kids come, and in our church we really celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the kids.
Yeah. Tell everybody exactly how we celebrate baptisms when we do it.
Yeah, when we have kids that sign up to get baptized, we bring the whole elementary crew over to celebrate with those kids that are getting baptized. So there's 3 or 4 pews reserved for us, and when we see our friends getting baptized, we know them. Hey, we know that guy up there getting baptized. We're
loud. We're obnoxious. Yeah. You ever been to those sports game where they have the number 1 fingers?
Yeah.
We have those. We have little itty bitty blue flags.
Yeah, I think we're working on getting some air horns.
Air horns.
Yeah.
And our boss loves it. And he's like, yeah, everyone needs to know that.
Celebration, a declaration of their faith. Yeah.
Absolutely. We make it a big deal. And then as soon as they call the name, we're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. The drums are going, guitars going. Yeah, it's fun. And the kid will 9 times out of 10 join us after they got baptized with wet hair and a new shirt, and they come back over with us. Yeah. Yeah, they're not as fast as Pastor Nick is at getting changed out of their swimming trunks
right
on baptism days. But
well, it's weird when we go over to Twin Lakes though, when we do it at the park. I'm like, guys, get out of the water. I want to go fishing now.
You're messing up with fish. But
very good.
And our church offers multiple times throughout the year to
we have like 3 or 4 a year. One in the winter we do indoor. The fall is indoor. The spring one I think is more outdoor. We don't always do the summer one because it's always a hit and miss kind of sign up based on things that are happening. But yeah, we're always looking to have people declare their faith, and we're the kind of church that wants to see that happen, and we're interested in that. So yeah, wraps it up for the day. That's everything we have on how to help your kid with water baptisms and making it happen. Mr. Daniel, can you be so kind to read us out for today?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you all for letting us speak into your life. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little people to one day become big people. You can learn more and support what we do at rongaleministries.com. rongaleministries.com. Thank you guys for listening. Smash those like buttons. Turn that bell blue, or whatever the kids are into these days. Like Skibbity or something.
Ohio boys.
Ohio, Skibbity, yeah.
Isn't that inappropriate? I don't even know. I have to look that up.
Nah, all the middle schools say it all day long. I hear that.
Skibbity.
Yep, Skibbity.
Make a Skibbity t-shirt. Put it on RongaleMinistries.com.
And thank you, Pastor Ron, for having me. This was cool.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel.
Awesome.
You are the man. We'll have to do it again. If you guys agree.
Maybe on the lake next time.
On the lake. Yes, sir. Catch your fish. My fish are always bigger than yours.
It's true.